College admission officers, what is the worst reason you chose not to accept a student? Viewer edition. Story 1. I'm an admissions advisor for a collaborative online college that my state's university system put together. We mostly cater to returning adult and non-traditional students. I work with the Associate of Arts and Sciences degree, so a 60-credit Gen Ed degree. Now, I want every single student to get in. I'm rooting for all of them because the goal of my college is to give working, returning, and adult students the accessible, affordable education they want. So it takes a lot for me to deny someone to the associate's program, though the standards are higher for the bachelor's, master's, and professional programs. I've admitted numerous students with GPAs under 1.0 due to family or health issues, or being in and out of juvenile detention centers and jail. I've admitted students who've been to a dozen institutions. I've admitted students who flunked out of or been expelled from multiple institutions. The only reasons I deny someone are if they've lied on their application, lied about how many colleges they've been to. Once I had an applicant who's been to 9 colleges and flunked out of all of them because he genuinely believed he was too smart to take Gen Eds. My advising appointment with him was outrageously frustrating because he kept claiming English 101 is beneath him, despite doing very poorly on the placement exam. He was denied since he admitted to me that he wouldn't do the work and expected to just be handed the degree because he said he's smart. So it wouldn't have been productive for anyone to admit him. I've also denied students who put no prior college coursework on their application despite being academically dismissed from several colleges to avoid sending us their transcripts. Which I understand to a certain extent because I'm sure it's scary to show that to someone. I'm sure as hell embarrassed of my undergrad transcripts because I had a serious chronic illness that definitely affected my education. But I just have to deny anyone who lies on the app. No exceptions. Other than those 2 scenarios, I welcome everyone and meet my students where they are because I genuinely believe everyone deserves the education they want. I mean, sometimes the first story is the best one and makes me the happiest because this absolutely should be the mindset. This should be the goal of colleges, is if people want to learn and want to better themselves, they should be able to, and that's not always the case for a lot of folks, and so I'm glad to hear that your college is trying the absolute hardest, I think, to make sure that that happens. Thumbs up. Story 2. My wife got rejected from several colleges on the grounds that she had almost no record of being born in another country. She called all of the colleges to find out what to do. In tears of frustration, she told one lady at Albert Einstein College of Medicine that the reason she didn't have records from her birth country was because her mom was sold to a man along with several other women, then taken to Thailand. And when her mother got pregnant, he sold her to an illegal brothel. So when she and her twin brother were born, they were considered illegal citizens with no country called their own. The lady on the phone told her she would call right back just to give her a moment. The lady walked to the dean's office to tell her what was going on, and upon verifying her story, accepted her on the spot. Then gave her recommendations for scholarships. My wife is now a doctor and only took 2 years to pay off the debt. I've never been a student of the school, but I love it. You folks just coming in here, giving me these, positive, heartwarming stories. I mean, I am sorry for the amount of struggle that your wife had to go through initially to get that to happen, but it is nice to hear that, when a human component was involved and the story was actually given, that something was done about it. I wish that this is how every one of these kind of situations went. It probably isn't, sadly, but hey, this can give us a little hope. Story 3. A couple of weeks ago, my friends, me, and the other band kids were on the bus for after-school band. The bus driver already seemed off. After the guys, like always, were screaming, moaning, groaning, etc., the bus driver threatened to take us back to our school with little kids on the bus who had done nothing. Then he passed where we were supposed to go to the band. We all thought he was going to turn around, but he then dropped off everyone else on the bus except for us. Then we were kept on the bus for about 20 extra minutes. I was the first one on a bus full of kids screaming at him to turn around. I thought we were being kidnapped. Then my friends proceeded to also cry since this man wouldn't tell us where we were going until he told us that he was taking us to blank school, the completely wrong school. We were screaming at him, telling him where we were supposed to go, and got ignored until a friend of mine called her mom, who had called the district, who called the secretary, who then finally called the bus driver. He finally turned around and stopped at the school bus stop. We all stood up just for him to continue driving, and my friend completely falling back. His parents took him to band from then on. He stopped at the bus depot at the school, then we all got off. We never saw him again. To add to that, our principal blamed it all on our behavior. Now, whenever I'm on the bus, I'm terrified the cameras on the bus are going to see something they don't like. But I'm the one who stays quiet and does nothing, so I'm good. But I'm scared my friends will get in trouble. Story 4. I've got a good story about a stupid rejection. My partner has a lot of animosity towards my former university, the local one that partnered with our college prep high school, and I think he has good reason to feel that way. The dumbest one is how he got rejected. Now, it's a pretty big and well-respected school, but not that hard to get into, just the base school when you're not trying to become an honor student or whatever. You don't even have to write an essay to get in, a major reason I didn't bother applying to be an honor student. I effing hate essays with a passion. Now, his high school grades weren't as good as mine. He didn't take any of the accelerated classes or early college classes, if I recall correctly. His only AP class was psych, but he got by and took the required classes. Now, to be fair, I never verified this, didn't look at the letter or his grades, but I believe him, especially because his mom taught at our high school and was great at it to boot. The rejection letter told him, "We are not accepting you because you need to have at least a GPA of X." His GPA was in fact X plus 0.5. He's a pretty non-confrontational, easily embarrassed person. I really wanted him to contest the rejection, but he didn't want to. He had been talking about how he had wanted to go to different school both his parents went to in a different city anyway. I had obviously wanted him to go to the same school as me because A, same school, duh, and B, I didn't want us to have a long-distance relationship from Monday to Friday. For the record, he's still going to different school up north, and as far as I know, likes it very much. Story 5. I took interior design at one of the major colleges in my country. I got in fine, ranked 5 out of 370 or so accepted applicants for my course, so thankfully I didn't even have to sit through the limbo of a waiting list, and admittedly the ease of which I got in kind of blinded me how easy it was to get rejected. Our chairwoman was one of my professors and came in one day looking annoyed and exhausted. My class, being a bunch of nosy, barely out of our teens 20-year-olds, all wanted to know what happened. Turns out she was annoyed at this student who was asking to be transferred into our course. Not too unusual, but apparently the reason she was asking for a transfer was that instead of applying for interior design, ID, she accidentally applied for industrial design, IND. When walking into the office, she supposedly paused at the door to read the sign that said chairman's office and then proceeded to ask her if this was the chairman's office. The chairwoman rejected her on the spot and told us it was gross incompetence. Can't help but feel bad for her. She was definitely nervous going into the chairwoman's office, but also I can't help but wonder how it took her so long to notice her mistake. It was already the second week of school and we had received our registration forms which listed our class schedules, section, and the course's full name at the top. Not to mention, when applying online, the course's full name showed up, not just the initials. I wanted to be on this person's side so much because having the departments and like how you register be defined by like ID and IND, like that's confusing. It's both interior and industrial design. I could see how that mistake would be made, especially if perhaps this person struggles with reading, maybe has dyslexia or, something that might make this a little bit harder for her. But getting that information so far ahead of time and waiting until like a weekend to try and make a correction, I would try and put that off too. I'm such a procrastinator and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. It's going to be so frustrating and embarrassing. But for something like that with a college, I don't think that you can put it off like that. So I'm sorry, but I feel like she made her bed and now she's got to lie in it. I hate to say that. Story 6. As a 4-year Embry-Riddle student, it's got its pros, but its cons are outstanding. Incompetent academic advisors, terrible course availability for your degree, constant financial department oversights, and mistakes, just to name a few. This all gets affectionately called the Riddle Runaround by students. To give you an idea, for me, my advisor constantly would try to enroll me in courses that were not needed for my degree. With the financial department, they would constantly forget certain scholarships and financial aid for a semester, so it would always be a last-minute scramble to correct it or I lose my slot for classes. I had one financial advisor be utterly perplexed that I couldn't just pay out of pocket for tuition, going as far to suggest that I just get a loan despite having more than enough funding through scholarships and financial aid I earned in high school. The most notable instance is I was originally enrolled as a mechanical engineering degree before transferring to aviation maintenance science. I was previously awarded a scholarship by ERAU themselves, but lost it when I switched to the aviation-focused degree at the aviation-focused college. Due to the constant scheduling issues from advisors and professors, my last 4 classes are all similarly related. They are the only classes I need to graduate. They're the only classes in one semester, 2 of which are prerequisites of the other 2. As a result, I am forced to take them all at the same time regardless in order to graduate without spending an additional tens of thousands of dollars to take them separately with filler classes. Oh, I forgot. They force you to live on the terrible quality, high-priced on-campus housing for 2 years, as well as pay for meal plans, meal tokens that are roughly $10 to $15 per token, that is only usable at the food services on campus for that 2 years as well. They recently constructed a parking garage in response to the constant complaints by commuting students. In doing so, they ramp up the traditional parking pass per year from around $150 to $250. Large portions of the new parking garage are reserved slots that would cost $1,200 a year, 2 semesters. Keep in mind, the average per semester cost for tuition is around $20,000 to $22,000. Story 7. As a white male from a lower middle-class single-parent home, I did average at school, had a learning disability I didn't find out about till after college, and I can confirm that Story 15 hits home. I got no financial aid after my freshman year and had to work 36 to 40 hours a week to pay for school and living expenses. I got a little help here and there from my parents, but I was broke for most of college with maybe 50 cents to my name on many occasions. I had years where I would average about 10 to 16 hours of sleep a week, not per night, per week, between school, work, and homework. As a result, my grades suffered quite a bit, which caused me lots of problems getting a job later. I'm all for equality and helping minorities get a good education, but excluding people based on their race from receiving financial aid is BS. We should be looking at their need, i.e., give money to kids who are working jobs and paying their way through school, even if their grades aren't great, because those are the students demonstrating their willingness to do whatever they need to go to school, regardless of race, financial background, and educational background. Sorry, rant over. I'm sure there'll be a few stories that have to do with how people's, race and stuff like that have affected their admissions to colleges. And that sucks no matter how you cut it. And I certainly don't know the answer. I wouldn't want to cut programs that, help affected, communities and minorities get opportunities that they might not otherwise have. But yeah, it sucks that you lost out on so many scholarships, and had to struggle like that. When I went back to college in my 20s, I went through a lot of that struggle too, and I get it. I ate nothing but ramen for a month, aside from one lunch that my job provided that was a 6-inch Subway sub, and it's the only time I've really loved Subway. That stuff is a huge stress, and it sucks, and I wouldn't want the programs for minorities and stuff like that to go away. Diversity and all that is important, and it's not a problem I think's fully solved. I don't think taking those programs away is the right solution. I think the government just helping to provide for everyone. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Free college. Gosh darn, I'm just going to say it. Free college. Free college. Free college. Story 8. I held a leadership position in my college marching band, and when interviewing to pick the next year's leader, they asked the seniors in our leadership for our opinions on all of our section's applicants. I was shocked to find out that one of our section members, who was a bully and did not seem particularly passionate about the band, had applied. I wrote quite a lengthy summary of all of his behaviors, including the fact that our section's leadership had to have a meeting just to discuss how to handle his bullying of another section member. I felt a little bad crushing his application, but I would not have wanted to march under him. He wasn't a bad kid overall, he just tended toward mean jokes and had zeroed in on this other kid. I thought that he'd probably mature out of it, but I did not want him to have power while figuring his crap out. I wasn't even sure how serious they'd take my comments, but he was the only applicant from our section who did not get a leadership position. On the other hand, I gave our only section member who applied for drum major a glowing review, which she fully deserved, and she got the position. Again, I don't know how much they took our comments into account, but I like to think I helped her make drum major. Story 9. One from the other end, students applying for colleges. Did well on my ACTs, everything seemed to be in order. I was skeptical of my school already due to their sports kids bias they had. A scholarship meant for all seniors was only given to the kids in sports teams, and I found out about it when they gathered all the seniors together to tell them this scholarship was given to everyone there. They forgot to not call in the non-sports students. Counselors were crazy in the worst ways there. So I apply and I wait. Rejection letters, all of them. Why? I apparently didn't have a government course credit. Problem is, I took the class and the school said I did have the credit. I went to some of my friends in the same grade and they told me the same thing. We supposedly had the credit, but not in the eyes of any college, including some out-of-state ones. Mom worked in the school and decided to ask around. She found out our government course we took in high school didn't count because the teacher apparently wasn't qualified. Technically, none of us should have even graduated high school because of it, but they never corrected the mistake. All of us wound up in our local community college just to get that course out of the way. High school still hasn't said whether they're going to rescind our own diplomas or not, and it had been over 5 years. I still hate my high school. This is a problem that I thought would have been gone by now, even like the whole last decade, because this is a problem that I had with college 20 friggin' years ago, because I had certain credits from my community college that weren't transferring over to the university that I went to. Just such nonsense, and they make you do so much work. You have to go through so many hoops and deal with so much frustration for something that is their fault. And it is like, I have known people who have basically ended up having to do a whole nother semester of college because of this, and that's not a cheap mistake that they're having to pay for. It's absurd. And the fact that it's still going on with so much more digital records and stuff that can be shared, that's unacceptable in this day and age. And any college, high school, whatever that's dealing with that stuff needs to get their crap in order. I know that's probably asking a lot, but if it's going to cause students this kind of problem, then that effort needs to happen. Story 10. I remember being so stressed about how perfect my application had to be to get into my dream college. Years later, I'm hanging out with some classmates who worked part-time in admissions. They broke down how the office worked, and half the people admitting students are just other college kids. There were so many applications that they got rid of the ones under a certain GPA or SAT/ACT score and then basically skimmed their essay/extracurriculars and made a snap decision based on vibes. Would reject/accept like 40 apps an hour. Just bam, 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 rapid fire. Story 11. I was also denied acceptance to every school I applied to. I'm an Eagle Scout, ran varsity cross country 4 years, had a 4.2 GPA, 3.55 unweighted, 5s on my AP Physics A, Calc AB, Computer Science exams, 4 on Physics, C Mechanics, 3 on AP World History, 650, 680 on AP Subject Physics and Math exams, 1430 SAT, did a lot of volunteer work, wrote what I thought were good essays. I was denied everywhere. I had the net of school varieties, safety, reasonable, reach. I ended up going to SBCC and drinking and smoking myself to very poor mental health, partied a lot and had a good time. Worked a meaningless job to pay my rent, then I transferred and am getting my CS degree. I want to know why I was rejected from even my safety schools. I'm by no means cream of the crop, but I thought I was decent. It really effed my self-esteem as a kid, especially with everything that went on at home and my mishaps in my social life. I felt like college was an inevitable escape and that I did my due diligence, but I guess that wasn't true. Story 12. Not a rejection story, but now that I've seen this, I'm a little more worried. I dropped out of community college during COVID because I hated online classes. Right before I left, I made a mistake I still think about today. I sent my English professor a nasty email because she dropped me from the class. I will admit, my grades were horrible and I didn't do anything. All I remember was saying how effing pathetic she was, and I had to check my spam email to find out and crap like that. I admit, I messed up. I let my emotions get the best of me. 2 hours after I sent the email, I get a response from her saying in all her years of teaching, she's never had someone send her such a disgusting email. I was already dropped from the class and used the logic I had nothing to lose. Looking back, I wonder if my email was shared to other professors/departments, but I guess I'll never know since I haven't been back since. Story 13. Coming out of high school, I had a 4.6 GPA, a 35 on the ACT, and many unique extracurriculars. I was rejected by every school I applied to but two. I'm Asian. Nothing has boiled my blood more than seeing my peers who I knew for a fact had not put in as much effort as I had with mediocre grades and test scores get into colleges that rejected me purely based on race. There's a problem in this country. Edit. I wrote this while high on frustration, and I want to clarify that I don't blame my peers, and I don't believe they are undeserving of their acceptances. I just felt this was an unjust situation.
I'll be honest, I didn't think that you were trying to say that those people don't deserve college or anything. I get your frustration as much as I can as a friggin' very white man, the palest of pale. But no, you should be angry. You should be extremely frustrated. You're allowed to be, because that's absurd. And I wish I had any kind of answer, but like I said earlier, race was going to be a thing in this, and it sucks. And I hate that this kind of stuff happens.
Story 14. I got two. One time I was touring the college I eventually attended. During the tour, the admissions people were telling us to be sure to examine our spelling since they got an essay from a girl who talked about her career as a candy stripper. Turns out she meant to say candy striper. I don't think she got in. For this one, I heard secondhand. In grad school, there was one guy who would have his acceptance revoked if he had decided to attend our school. Why? This was a student from South Korea who was extremely racist towards the Japanese. He was blatantly asking our admissions office if we were accepting any Japanese students, and if he would have to interact or work with them if he attended our program. The kicker is that this is a program for international affairs where we routinely celebrate our diversity. I want to know what the guy was thinking of applying to a program like ours. Story 15. I feel so bad for the person who was rejected by Embry-Riddle. I'm also trying to get into the airlines, and I considered applying to ERAU myself when I was in college. I chose not to since I already knew that my grades weren't going to be good enough. Not too long after, I found out how overrated ERAU is. Their flight training curriculum used to be the best at getting you to ATPL requirements, but they've gone downhill since. Having a degree from ERAU helps when applying to airlines, but they stopped caring about where you got your degree and even what your major is years ago. Now, some airlines are considering dropping the degree requirement altogether. ERAU is a waste of time and money. I hate that this person gave up on a career in aviation entirely from this. Story 16. For my admission essay, I was told to write an essay but didn't say what. So I just picked a subject I was literally just interested in that week. Nose candy in Coca-Cola. Then a month later, the day of the interview, I, for some reason, really liked saying the word jolly. And I said it a lot in my interview. In hindsight, everything I did was pretty weird. But hey, I even got a scholarship, so I guess things worked out.
They asked for an essay. I mean, typically a college essay is like asking about, like, you know, you and why you want to be in college and stuff, I think. But I love that you decided to write an essay about nose candy and Coca-Cola. And the fact that you got accepted and everything, saying, oh, jolly good, or whatever it was. Like, yeah, sometimes I feel like colleges just admit people because they're like, this made me smile. therein, which I guess might be problematic, but I don't know. I'll take whatever smiles I can get.
Story 17. My sister was an excellent student with highest honors, athlete, and head of numerous clubs. Sad to say, her high school transcripts were mixed up with a different student who was academically challenged. She was rejected by every college she applied to and didn't understand why. She eventually gave up and went to a trade school instead. It was later that she found out the high school made a mistake. Story 18. Me and a friend both applied for this national fellowship that would essentially eliminate all worries while in graduate school. If awarded, all schools could not charge you tuition and you would be given $135,000 for personal needs. Turns out, he got it because he put prefer not to answer for category of race. He was even surprised he got it because his application was sloppily put together in a day while I spent 3 months on it. We are both white, but in a way I felt really cheated by the system for overlooking hard work. Good news is that I'm doing better now and way happier. Story 19. A friend whose mom works at college administration once told me that when we're applying for colleges, you can have straight A's/100% on every single test and assignment or the equivalent to them, even the optional ones. You can be valedictorian, star prodigy, and whatever you specialize in. Spend your free time volunteering, pristine social media. That doesn't matter sometimes. Why? Because you can bet there's a bunch of kids who have the same application and resume as you, and they want something that will separate someone from the pack. Story 20. From my high school, student asked the teacher for a letter of recommendation, which the teacher gladly gave, an especially glowing one. Student then thought it would be a good idea to start bullying the teacher's daughter. Teacher instantly revoked her recommendation, sent the college admissions office screenshots of the social media harassment, and made sure the student was frozen out of any and all local scholarships because she was on the scholarship committee.
I said it before, and I will say it again. Bullies in high school, you are shooting yourselves in the foot. And I know that you might be going through your own things and your own struggles, and I hope that you can find help, but I would just encourage you to not bully people, because that stuff can stick with you and have ramifications on the part of your life that you're going to actually really care about. Because once you're an adult, you're not going to care about your high school life that much. And the laughs you got from your couple of friends for being a bully aren't going to mean squat. So just don't screw yourself over. I know that you're probably dealing with stuff, but you need to deal with it and not people that you're getting bullied.
Story 21. I know a girl who got perfect grades in the IB program, last 2 years of secondary school, quite a difficult program, and wanted to do medicine. She only got accepted to one uni, and that was only due to being a bilingual transfer program. The reason? She did well, but not extremely well on a medical student's test, and this was because her grandfather had died weeks before the test, so she was grieving. I hope she's doing well now. It's sad to see how many bright sparks are rejected due to the shortage of medicine places at unis. Story 22. Super bad move on me, but I 100% exploited the diversity crap. I'm a white gay kid from a small town in Oklahoma. Sure, there's some homophobia, but not as much as the media makes it out to be. I actually really love it in my small rural town and really wish I could go back. Anyways, in my admissions essay, I wrote about how oppressed I am, how I'm trapped in a homophobic family in a homophobic town. Literally complete BS that they ate up. Honestly, that's probably the easiest way to get into college. Just say you're a minority. Story 23. I actually knew this really smart guy who was so good in school that he holds a record in my IB boarding school for the best GPA in 120 or so years. Because of his good grades, he applied to Harvard and other Ivy League schools, but got rejected. Why? It was because he was Chinese. So he ended up in a Canadian university. Story 24. I got rejected from my dream college because my GPA was so low. They told me I could reapply when I made up for it with 12 credit hours. I then couldn't go to community college to make up for those credit hours because I couldn't afford tuition. I'm now planning on taking the CLEP exams to not only make up for the missing credits, but also stack my chances of attending in my favor. I need 12 credits. I'll just earn 109. Story 25. Quick admission story that is also karma. Knew a guy who thought he'd get into state college on a basketball full-ride scholarship but was denied for participation in youth violence because he had bullied the admission officer's kid. That mother never forgot the name of the boy who had given her son a black eye, and she never forgave him either. Story 26. An ex-boyfriend of mine went to Embry-Riddle back in the 80s. He quit going there because he wanted to learn how to fix and fly planes. He said it felt like a rehash of high school and wasn't learning what he came there to learn. Story 27. I got waitlisted at a school even though I was in a bunch of clubs and Eagle Scout and was in sports. Decent GPA too with a 4.3. Pretty annoyed since I meet people who had lower qualifications get into the program. Granted, I did eventually get in, but it made me resentful for a month since I was uncertain about my chances.
What is with all of you people getting above a 4.0 GPA? I thought that was like the highest. Like you just breaking grade ceilings or something, showing off with your 4.3s and your 4.6s and your 5.9s or whatever. Some of us didn't put in the effort. Some of us coasted by, didn't do a lick of homework the entire time we were in high school, dinked around, and we settled for our 3.5, and we liked it. No, wait, it was not 3.5. Calculus goofed me over. I think that drug me down to a 3.3. Whatever. I don't care, because I'm cool.
Story 28. I once rejected this student from this art school in Vienna. I was not impressed with his portfolio, and he was a bit bummed about it. But I think it worked out for him now. He told me he's going into politics. Best of luck for him. Story 29. I was an admissions officer for the School of Business at a university. I automatically rejected applications with money stapled to the admission paperwork. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.